Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Broken Not Broke interview, an opportunity to discuss the financial impact of childhood cancer, as well as solutions about it. My name is Adrián Franco. I am the Executive Director of the Guarini Institute at NJCU, and also the principal of the Broken Not Broke initiative that includes a website that has a database of organizations that support families financially when they are impacted by childhood cancer, as well as other tools like newsletters and the recordings of these interviews. Today, we are honored to have with us Theresa Segui, who is the Executive Director of Ocean of Love. Ocean of Love is an organization in Ocean County, New Jersey, that has been done a tremendous job supporting families. She'll tell us more in a second about it, but I can tell you I'm very impressed about their programs to prevent housing insecurity, food insecurity, support with transportation. And I must acknowledge the fact of how friendly and stress-free is the process for any family to get this support. So we'll talk a little bit more about it in a second, but Teresa, thank you so much for joining us for this
Thank,
interview.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I love what you're doing, and I think it's so needed what we're talking about and what you're working on and the broken. I just think it's something that's long overdue, and I'm just very happy to work with you and to be able to collaborate on this and let people be more aware of what's going on, especially in our area.
Likewise, and I also should add, Teresa has personal experience in this topic, just as me with our sons. And this just, completely changes the way that you look at some of these issues. And that Teresa brings this to her position since 2017, and that's one of the key issues of the success of Ocean of Love. Let me ask the first question I ask all our guests is, tell us about the impact of childhood cancer in the finances and the financial stability of families.
I think for pediatric cancer specifically, I mean, obviously all cancers have an impact, but for pediatric cancer, one of the biggest things is the loss of income of a parent or the both parents during this time. And that's the definitely obviously the biggest impact because you go from a some are two income families and then you go to a no income. There's also a very big rise of single parent families. So if that mom or dad have to be with their child, they have no income. So that's a huge effect just from the start, not to mention many people are self-employed or work for places that don't have benefits or don't do any type of paid leave or even, a lot of people always quote the FMLA, which is awesome if you're available for that. I apologize for the phone call. Forgot to put mute. But anyway, that's a lot of the loss of income, the job benefits are dwindling for a lot of employers. It's a high cost for companies. So many families have part-time jobs that don't provide benefits. So the medical is astronomical no matter what you have. Um, and also the people not understanding that everybody has different health benefits. So that is, it's not across the board where it's covered. Some people have very high out of pocket co-pays, co-insurance, deductibles. And one of the things that we talk about being in our area is most of the health insurance companies pick the Midwest or some other area for usual and customary expenses. When you're living in our area, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, we are not usually and customary. So only a percentage of, say, an MRI or a PET scan or even treatment is covered. And that already, again, that just adds to the financial impact on that family. Because you're thinking, oh, I have benefits. This should be great. And then you find out that, oh, they're using Indiana as a guideline, where it's a completely different market out here. And another misconception I think that we'd like to clear up is the length of treatment is extremely long. Like if you had to go out, lost your income for a month, you'll be able to rebound quicker. Most childhood cancer treatment is at least 6 months, many to or 3 years is the standard treatment, especially for leukemia. And we've had kids that have been on treatment for 6 to 12 years. And that is a horrible impact on the family, um, financially and emotionally. But obviously, today we're discussing more financially. And also the hospital stays themselves. Sometimes, as the child goes further in treatment, the body is weaker and they get spike fevers. And as many of our parents know, when your child spikes a fever, you're in the hospital and you don't get out until that child's counts rebound. So that hospital stay is also costly with food, parking, all of that increases. You have family at home that still needs to eat, siblings, childcare, all that is still going on while you're focusing on your child. Um, we've talked about experimental in the past. Some families, we have a lot of rare cancers, so experimental drugs aren't always a part of treatment. So they have to fight with the insurance company to get some payment. And we've also had insurance companies tell people that it's not a medical necessity, according to them. So that's another thing where it's not covered. You're not going to not do it for your child. So it's yet another expense on top of everything. And also the medications that the children need. They're not always covered. And either they're not covered, or even if they are covered, they're extremely expensive. Some medications are $400 for one injection, and that's covered through insurance. That's the insurance payment that you have to come up with, and not a lot of families struggle with that. So there's many different aspects that put families behind in financial issues. And also, it doesn't always come to you. We joke around about this all the time. It's not like you have the savings in the bank of $80,000 to be like, oh, just in case my kid gets cancer. That's not how this works. Many times, families are hit at a time where they're either unemployed or already behind on bills. They have childcare needs, they have a family that needs all that stuff. Your mortgage has to be paid, your rent, utilities, all of that still has to get paid while you're struggling and you have no income coming in. So that's many of the different reasons why the families are so impacted with childhood cancer. Your microphone.
Thank you again for the comprehensive view of how a family has to fight this financial shock. You mentioned that some treatments could go to 6, 12 years. How do you see the costs of childhood cancer evolving over time? And based on that answer, what do you think is the impact on the potential economic mobility, not only of the patient, but the whole family?
Good question. One of the things that we've discussed in the past is relapse and secondary cancers are extremely common. Especially right now, we've had an increase in relapses for some reason. So that causes a family gets to the point where it's a year off treatment and they're like, yay, we're finally starting to catch up and take a breath, and that child relapses. And then they haven't recovered from the first treatment financially, emotionally, and now they're thrown right back into it. And again, there's people that have relapsed not just once, but 2, 3 times. So that family never gets ahead, and really falls behind in many different aspects. And I'll discuss it a little more about the economic mobility part of it in a minute. But again, the extended hospital stays are always very hard. Secondary cancers is also very common, where your child had leukemia or had a brain tumor and then develops another tumor later on. So those are families that are forever impacted. And it is very, very hard financially to dig yourself out of that. As you're going through all of this, you don't have the time, and this happens quite often to many families, to maintain your vehicle. Because you don't have that, you don't have that opportunity to bring it into the shop or do things, and you're putting excessive mileage on it, going back and forth for treatment, radiation, whatever you're doing. So wear and tear. Many families have not take it, the engine seizes, or they end up with only one vehicle for a whole family. So transportation becomes an issue, and having to now try and find a place to get either a used car, or get your child back and forth from treatment, get your husband to work or your wife to work. Those are all things that the longer you're in this mess, this is what's going to continue happening. Household repairs, same thing. When your air conditioning breaks and you're already behind on your bills, that's stuff that, is very hard to come up with that amount of money, or even get it the credit to be able to do that. And one of the things for the children while that are going through it that's also costly are the therapies. Many children need physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and mental health therapy. And all of that is yet another additional cost. And a lot of times they're not fully covered by insurance, but your child needs it. So you're going to do it. And then again, that's just a long-term cost, because that could be, some children need more than, 6 months, 8 months. And along with PT, comes braces sometimes, the wheelchairs, all the walkers, any type of durable medical equipment that's not covered, or that's hard to get. Again, I'm going to do drug costs, because a lot of our children are on lifelong drugs after treatment, especially if they've gone through radiation. They're on lifelong endocrine drugs and immunotherapies. So that's just a continued cost that the family will never get past. Specialist care. Many of the children need cardiologists, endocrines, nephrologists. I can continue all the ologists in the world, but after your child goes off treatment, they have to be followed. Most kids have cardiac issues, endocrine, hearing, audio. I mean, especially audiology. Anyone who's gone through this treatment knows most of the drugs affect a child's hearing, so that becomes audiology. And then hearing aids become a part. And if anyone's had to go and purchase hearing aids, you're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars, and continual use of that. So that's just some of the costs that continue to evolve and just get bigger and bigger. And if you're already behind, it's just hard to get ahead of that. Tutoring also is something that comes up during this time. Neuropsych evaluations. All the children that go through this need to have neuropsych testing done. And again, sometimes it's covered, sometimes it's not. You could try and get it through schools, but that's another, there's all different things that come up on this. And tutoring is something that a lot of these children need. They miss school, and they have to catch up. So that's another cost that is not apparent for many people. And then as they're trying to get past all these all the costs that are building up over time, even after their child's off treatment, now it's, okay, how do we get back to where we were, what we were doing? And the economic mobility of it is, a lot of families, when your child's on treatment for 3 years, a lot of people they're not in their original job. Some companies are very, forthcoming, and, they're great, and they'll give you the FMLA, but that's not a 3-year FMLA. And they need a body in that position. So they've hired for your position already. So the job market is different. Many people enter at a lower salary, with less benefits. One of the things that people are having a hard time with is getting full-time job with benefits, versus, so now they're going for part-time positions, no benefits. And also, it's very hard to explain that job gap. You have a big gap in your resume. whether or not it's legal or legal for them to ask you why, they see it and they know it. And when the job market is very tight, you're not the high candidate. When you hear that your kid, and I've been in this position, we've, lost a job over having high medical expenses. So you're not the candidate that they're going to right away if they already know that. And again, may be illegal for them to ask, but it's apparent in your, social media. Unfortunately, also you can find out very easily who's why that person wasn't in the job market. The cost of living is much higher now, so they're behind. You get to this point, and it's hard for them to even put food on their table. Many people go to credit cards, and unfortunately, credit cards, you're talking an interest rate of at least 27%, if not higher. And then if your credit score during this takes a hit, most families have an issue because they're behind on bills, they couldn't pay, their credit score gets knocked. So when they go for a credit card to help, the interest rate is much higher because they have a lower credit score. So that is something where paying late fees, they overall spend way more than what they should be on just basic items. And like we're even just talking about food, families that put, your grocery bills on a credit card, you're spending so much more money in the end. They also have to deal with, some people have taken money out of, if they've ever had like a college fund for their children or a 401k or any of that, that's usually gone by the time you're done with treatment. So it affects the children, the siblings, because that college fund is gone. So you were thinking of going to, say, a 4-year college or even trade school. You can't afford it now. So that affects the whole family's economic mobility, because now it's trickled down to the siblings. And we've seen where some have, opted to go to, local community college and then try to transfer or go right into the job market and try and educate themselves at night school. And that does change the entire family dynamic in that aspect. Because now, again, you have parents in a different job market, less mobility. And I just, it's hard for them to get ahead of, 3, 4, 5 years of being behind and just playing catch up with all the bills, not just medical, but your own household bills. Because some people have also, unfortunately, lost a home. So now they're renting, or they've had to sell a home because they couldn't afford the mortgage, and now they're renting. And that's a lot of families have to deal with that. So that's a lot of, a lot of change in that family dynamic.
Thank you again for describing so accurately so many phases and so many aspects of the journey of a family impacted by childhood cancer, in particular in their finances. We love to hear about what Ocean of Love does, and
I would love to hear that.
yes,
As you were saying, I love how you say we're the easiest organization to get assistance from, because we are. We don't want, being someone, and as you know, anyone who's been through it, there are so many hoops in a lot of places to try and get assistance. And then after you do, like, pages and pages and the history and all this stuff, and then to get denied, you're like, oh my gosh, we don't want anyone to have that experience. So that's one of the things that I'm very proud of what we do in, we offer financial and emotional support. That's where, we're more than just, money going somewhere. And it's hard to put a dollar amount on the emotional, but I think that's a lot of what our families love the most. But our job is to ease the burden of the parents and the family. That's what we're here. I feel we're a necessity organization. We want to make sure you have food, you have gas, your lights are on. That's what our biggest goal is. We want to really make sure that you don't have, like, when you get referred to Ocean of Love, really it's your social worker, you sign a HIPAA form and you do an intake. That is it. You're automatically an Ocean of Love family. Very simple process. There's no application that you have to do. And the one thing I do have to say for us and for all of you is your social worker has to refer, to, we have to verify that your child has cancer. That's definitely one of the things. And that's thankfully we have a very good relationship with a lot of the hospitals. Social workers are very familiar with us. And we only deal with things that are a direct result of your child's diagnosis. Obviously, we're not a thing that can make everything magically disappear that's happened before, but we will help you through your child's treatment, through the entire treatment process. Um, and again, we focus on necessities. We pay vendors directly. So we pay your utility bill directly to JCP&L, PSE&G, or whoever. So that way there's not even another step. You give us a bill, it's taken care of, that's great. We do all transportation costs, and that includes the gas to go in your car, all parking and tolls at the hospital. We take care of all of that. We never want food insecurity to be an issue. So they get grocery cards to make sure that there's always food on the table for themselves and the family, as well as helping while the family's at the hospital. Because that's also one of the expenses that I mentioned before is a lot of family parents aren't included in food when you're at the hospital. So parents like to eat, just everyone. So there's a DoorDash. Some hospitals have a nice coupon system. Others, you can do a DoorDash or Uber Eats or something for that family. So we do that as well. We also help with household repairs. As mentioned earlier, the air conditioning or heating. We are very fortunate that we have wonderful service people that we deal with that can give us a discount on those services. And we also do family events because we want families to connect with others that are in the same situation. So we do a lot of game nights. We do outside events. We do events at the office. We are a little blue house on the corner. It's like coming to grandma's house. You can do play dates. We have arts and crafts. We have a whole gaming system room updated with all the latest and Xbox, PlayStation, all of that, Nintendo Switch, because we want kids to have fun. That's what we're about. We're about having fun and forgetting what you're going through during this time. And the parents love coming here just for that. It's a separation of it's a place to come and kind of leave your worries behind. We do everything for you. That's what we're here for. And like I said, the best way I could say it is getting spoiled at grandma's is what we are. One of the things that I feel we do the best in is the emotional support, as I said, and we want to anticipate families' needs. One of the hardest things to do when you're going through this is to ask for something. So it's us saying to you, here's your cards, here's your grocery store cards, here's your Target card. Those are the things that we don't want someone to be embarrassed to ask if they don't have food. So we kind of get to know the families definitely on a really individual basis because each family has specific needs. So we tailor what we do to their needs. And we, in respectful ways of just knowing, what they're lacking in, and we try, with our support here, fit that need. And the siblings too. It's a full family operation here. Siblings love coming here, which we love as well, because one of the things, this is not just the financial part of it, is emotionally, those siblings don't have their parents around as much as they did. So we want to make sure that the whole family is treated. Um, and then unfortunately, obviously the reality of what we do is that children do pass. So we help with funeral costs and, the repasses, and that is part of what Ocean of Love does. So.
Thank you, Teresa. And again, big fan of the organization, the way that you process the intake, so stress-free, so simple, and so important for families in this situation, but also the way that you and the team of Ocean of Love looks at the whole journey and finds so many ways to support the family in these very, very difficult moments. Tell us about what are the most difficult cases to assist? I mean, where do you find the challenges in your work?
I think every family poses a different type of challenge. Those that uh, families that are already behind on their finances. Some have been laid off. We've had some families that were already on the verge of homelessness when they start. That's hard to just get them a place to stay and get, that's been a challenge. And them and educating on financial literacy, that's a hard thing. Those that don't understand what they need to do. There is a gap in many of the how they can navigate getting help. So that's part of us helping them here, because one of the things that people still don't realize is there's many families that don't have internet, a computer, a printer. So we have all of that here to help them apply for additional assistance. Help them get stuff that they don't, they can't get on their own or even understand how to do. So we help them, again, we filled out applications, we've helped them with, getting housing. That's part of what we do if you're in that need. Some families are already living above their means, which is unfortunate, seems to be a lot of this up and coming families. And it's hard to explain to them that we're not here to keep you at the level you're used to living. You have to kind of tailor your lifestyle, and make some changes that are very hard for people, because again, we're necessity based, and we want to make sure that they understand what a true necessity is. And that's hard for a lot of families who are used to going on vacation a couple times a year or stuff. Those aren't necessities, those are luxuries that you kind of need to tailor back. And also to prep a family for the length of something. A lot of families have friends and family that come out right from the gate and they're like, we're here for you, great. But when the month six hits, or or year one, they lose their stamina. But one of the things that I'm very proud of here is that we're there through your entire journey. And we're going to assist you because we've seen this. We've seen this before. We have years of experience in dealing with this, and we were there to help you along the way. And a lot of families, when they get diagnosed with cancer, they're already living paycheck to paycheck. So that's another challenge. So that's where like the food insecurity, all that stuff, that was on the rise after the pandemic. That used to be like only for certain people. And then we noticed that so many people were struggling with that, keeping food on their table. And if you have a large family, depending on the size of your family as well, obviously we're going to have to tailor to if you have, 3 kids versus 5 kids, or, one child, that also changes. So every family, I think, is a unique in itself. And that's why we take so much time to get to know them. Because there's the siblings, the child care that's needed. If you have a single mom who has to be with the child and they have 3 other children, that are not school age. A lot of children get diagnosed. It's not like convenient where, oh, they're all school age. We had a family who was all under 5, so you have to try and find things for them, child care and other. They have Each person again has each family is uniquely in what they need. The basics are there, gas, food and all that, but each family has certain challenges that we want to make sure that we meet all the time.
Let me talk now, going from the micro that you described, this uniqueness of each family to the macro.
Okay.
Uh, Based on your experience, what will be those changes that we need to see at the policy level, legislation, even systemic level that will make a difference in the financial toxicity that these families are experiencing?
One of the things, and I know we've discussed in the past, is health insurance needs a complete overhaul. And I know we don't have enough time to go into that, but one of the things I want to say about health insurance just in general is the policies need to change, and you have to stop. I feel like, because it hasn't changed in the 27 years I've been involved with health insurance, is the doctors need to be making the decisions. not the health insurance company. And that is just something that would help the families, not only financially, but emotionally. And actually, even financially, because what happens with so many of the families is they pay it just because they need to. And it's like they lose. I always joke, they take advantage of people in such a drained emotional state that it's like they won't fight because they have no energy left. And they're right. So many families have paid stuff that they shouldn't have had to just because they want it gone. And that is a huge thing that, again, we could talk about that forever because insurance, that's a nationwide issue. One of the things, financial literacy, I think, is extremely important for families. Um, it's funny because when you go for transplant, uh, if anyone's ever had to go for a transplant, they have an entire class on financial, whether or not you can survive the whole process, financially, not just emotionally, but financially. Why do they not have that for pediatric cancer? Because that is even a much longer process. Huge, huge, even, just not pediatric, but just cancer in general. I don't know about the adult end, but no one ever sat down with one of our families and was like, can you financially get through this? No. But they do that in the organ transplant world. And it's mandatory. So I feel like that is something that on a hospital level or some type of level, again, cross country, um, because I've seen it in Philadelphia, I've seen it in Pennsylvania, I've seen it in New York for the organ transplants. But again, not once have I seen somebody say, "Hey, can you get through this as a family?" And the social workers are doing an amazing job. They're overwhelmed, so it could even come across something different. And one of the things, I think is so, again, systemic, and we've discussed this too, accessibility for all families. And that is not, even you see it in your own town. For example, one town could have six families with cancer. There's that one family that gets every fundraiser, every GoFundMe, where other families don't get that. We've had a family that their child was on treatment for 12 years and never had a fundraiser. How is that possible? Where other families in their town got six of them. So that's a awareness, again, I don't know how to fix that, but that is a huge problem when people aren't aware that, you're putting your money, and there are good people out there trying to help, but your money may be better served someplace different. And another, more of like, we could do it statewide, townwide, nationwide, a collaboration with, or partnership, however you want to word it, with utility, mortgage companies, auto companies, anyone that does loans for families like this. Most places have foundations. Most electric companies have an electric foundation. Why can't those foundations help these families? Take that money, either be it defer the cost or pay their bills for the 6 months of treatment, something where the utility company sponsors events in the community. Don't do that, help these families, or do both. It's a win-win. And many people aren't aware, some auto companies do deferred payment, which is great. They add it on the end until you're getting better. Mortgage companies, rental companies, all of that awareness, come up with a countrywide letter that says, like we were discussed this, here, my child is on treatment for this amount of years. Can you give me some type of break? We've seen it happen with electric forgiveness and whatever. These are things where they're, if you look at their W-2 or W-4 from years ago, a lot of places look at the year before your child was diagnosed. Well, that's not really good because that year before I was doing great. Now, in this immediate moment, we don't have that money. So that's something where a lot of foundations, a lot of companies look at your tax forms from a year ago. Well, that's not a relevant factor for you to decide what's happening now with these families. again, be it a nationwide form that says, my child's on treatment, I can't work, my job doesn't pay this, you know, a lot of that type of stuff, if we could come up with a form that it would just help. And again, these companies, there's a lot of companies that do want to help. They came up with these foundations. They want to give back to the community. Many of them don't know where, who, what, and where the need is. And unfortunately, that's a lot of our families don't know where to go. And that's why I love the broke, not broken. That's the it's so important for them to have a source, one source where they can go and, instead of having to try and find it on their own or Google it. And one of the things too is even if it's medical bill forgiveness, if your child passes, after your child passes, you know, one funeral cost should be free or minimal, and medical bills should be forgiven. If that to me is one of the things is after your child passes, um, you shouldn't have to deal with that. Um, and then even interest rate forgiveness, the credit cards, you know, if you could just knock down that family's credit card bill, those are all things because you got the money for that item that they purchased. Now it's going to take them 20 years to pay off, their groceries. That's silly. That's not something that anyone should have to do. And again, they're doing the best they can with what they have and what's available to them. So I just feel that addressing it as either, state level, nation level, however it is, I know that this problem isn't just in our little tri-state area. It's everywhere. And our families go for treatment nationwide. There's a lot of that is part of it. So we kind of need to collaborate more, compete less. That's one of the things I've been saying for years is let's stop competing, let's start collaborating and helping those that are truly in need. And I think that our families, the families that go through stuff like this are very much so in need.
Well, there's all those points are essential and very insightful. Thank you so much. I mean, we appreciate that you share this with us. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind right now. One is this awareness aspect. I mean, the fact that it sounds that it's possible, it should be possible to make these companies aware of the dire situation a family is going through and find a way to work with them so they can um, make easier for this family to go through this journey and especially don't lose any potential mobility that they might have in the next future in the future. So the awareness aspect, both at the company level and the family level, I think is key. And they collaborate more, compete less. It's music to our ears. That's what Broken Not Broke was trying to address since day one. Is like, well, we have all these great organizations out there. Let's find it. Let's find a way to connect
Yeah.
somehow. Um, Anything else you want to share with us before we finish the interview?
No, I'm just grateful that this is finally the conversation that people are having. And honestly, like if anyone wants to reach out to myself, they're more than welcome to at Ocean of Love. We are here for anybody, even informational wise. Um, that's what we're here for. We're here to help families and as easy as possible. We don't want to add any burden onto anybody else. We just want to help them get them through it. And awareness, like I said, just if anybody knows anyone, they spread that awareness around, we're good. September, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Let's spread that out there. Get that going. But thank you, Adrian. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I love everything that's going on. And it's been a pleasure working with you, and I can't wait to collaborate more. I'm very thankful for that.
Likewise, let me remind everyone, please visit the website oceanoflove.org. That's oceanoflove.org if you are seeking assistance, but also if you can donate and support the organization. I can assure you that those donations, that support will make a huge difference in many families for a long time. Thank you again to Theresa Segui and her team, to everyone at Ocean of Love. And also, please visit brokenNotbroke.org. You'll find a very easy, friendly search engine to find organizations that support families affected by childhood cancer. You will also find our newsletters that have the most recent news on these topics, as well as spotlights on our organizations. You will find links to our YouTube channel where you can find interviews like the one we had today. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.